Alrighty, folks, it is 10:20 here on the East
Alrighty,
Coast.
folks, it is 10:20 here on the East
Alrighty,
Coast.
folks, it is 10:20 here on the. Oh, sorry. It is 10:20 here on the East Coast. I had to mute my Twitch there. Welcome to Twitch Line. I am your host, Hodo. Joined as always with me is my best friend, Mr. Acorn. How are you today?
Doing well, sir. Doing well. How about yourself?
I discovered something new. I discovered that Speedway, a gas station on my way home, has fountain ices the size of my head for 89 cents. So I have learned I can give myself diabetes before I get home every day from work.
And brain freeze on top of that. That's
Yeah,
nice.
that's exactly right. I actually showed my nephew the size of my slushie, and his eyes light up like it was Christmas. It was actually really hilarious to watch.
Yeah, man. I remember this is maybe I'm showing my age here, but back when I was a kid in the 80s, uh, I used to go down to Florida, to Clearwater, Florida,
Hmm.
and visit the grandparents. And there was a little corner shop next to the beach where we would go that would sell 44 ounces of soda for 44 cents. And let me tell you, I was buzzing off sugar for the entire time I was down there, just racing up and down the beach.
The race is not whether or not you can drink it all, but whether or not you can drink it all before the ice melts, because it is a tremendous amount of soda to
That
drink.
is.
So, but as always, welcome to Twitch Line, your home for relationship advice here on Twitch and YouTube. For those just joining us, welcome. You can always contact us if you have a question, concern, or even a comment at twitchlinelove@gmail.com. You can tweet us also at Twitchline. You can also go down below if you're interested in watching us on YouTube or any of our past shows. Click on the YouTube button below and you can join us and watch us on YouTube there. We're also available on SoundCloud for those who are interested in the show and want us to take us to go. You can listen to us on our phone, on your phone, at work, or any place where you can sort of play SoundCloud off your browser. So let's take you now here onto the main scene. So as you know, we are interested in helping people with their problems. And normally we do about 3 topics a day. So on Wednesdays we normally go to Reddit, but we've got a mix here uh, of Reddit comments and just random things that we've thought up. So hopefully today's show will be very, very entertaining. And our first topic here is regarding texting and whether or not it's a priority for older men. Tim, take it away.
Yeah. So actually, in this case, it is related to older men, but it doesn't have to be. It could be older women as well. But it is the difference between uh, people in their 20s, people in their 30s, 40s, and how they use technology when interacting with other people when they're looking for dates. So the redditor that we pulled this from, she's a 24-year-old female, and she's using apps to date. She finds that men around her age respond in seconds. Basically, as soon as she sends out that text, it comes right back. Whereas men in their 30s respond anywhere between 4 and 5 hours, and even up to a day later. And she wondered why this would be so dramatically different. And she said, she recognizes that it might be due to the older men having more responsibilities, but she's kind of worried about bringing it up because she doesn't want to be seen as needy.
Mm.
So, yeah, I mean, I get that. She's unsure. She's probably, 24. You've probably done some dating, but, I'm not sure how much exposure you had to older men in their 30s. Generally, you don't date that high when you're in high school and college. I hope not. You know, you got time. You don't need to be going all over the place that early. Um,
Yeah.
so, so my first sort of feeling about this is like we just need to be careful of how stereotypes can lead to expectations. Right. So just because someone is older than you or younger than you, assuming that they will behave in a certain way when communicating, or even how they date or how they treat you emotionally. you just have to be careful of those generalizations because not everyone's going to fit into a comfortable little box of stereotypes. And if you if you date enough, you'll see that more and more people fall into this perception of the stereotype, and then you'll find more and more people are also outside of it. And hopefully that'll at least make you feel less nervous or uncomfortable as she's feeling. Um, so I think the first thing I would do is consider: is this generational divide or is this just a difference in personality? You know, for her, in her case, she's using apps, but if they were texting on their phones outside of the dating app, maybe the behavior would change just from that. If this is happening before they've even met, maybe the texting behavior would change after they've met and become comfortable after meeting in person. Or perhaps they're already in a relationship and this is sort of like a set standard of the way they communicate through text. And that generally doesn't change as much unless there's a conversation about it. Z, do you have any things that have come to your head so far that you want to
Yeah,
share?
this is one of those things that it just seems like to me a little bit that it's more. It could theoretically be a generational divide because I am terrible at texting. I am older. I am a man, and I don't fiddle around with my phone all the time. During the day, I do have a job. I do use my phone to use, business calls, everything like that. But I'm not necessarily the quickest in the world to reply to a text, especially if it's not business related. So it's one of those things in which I can understand her frustration. The ladies at work who are younger than I am, in their mid 20s, as soon as the phone beeps, they immediately grab for it and answer it. And I understand that particular generation is very phone centric. It is very common for them how to communicate that way. So I can really understand a little bit like the frustration that they go to because I've heard the conversations where somebody will get upset over not being replied to in a very short period of time. So it's almost like as if uh, that particular generation treats it like it's an immediate conversation almost. That's my only thought, really, because dating younger people in this particular day and age can be very very tricky. Even though an age gap could be as little as 5 years, 6 years, or something like that, which can happen. And that difference with regards to how they react to technology can be a little bit overwhelming because they do treat it differently, even at that just minor gap. That's one
Right.
of
But
yeah.
I mean, they might point at you and say, it's difficult dating someone who's a little bit older because they treat technology differently. Like basically what you just said and
Yeah.
just put it right back in your face,
Oh no,
in the other
absolutely.
direction.
Hmm.
And I mean, I come from uh, the position of having married a younger woman, and when she met me, because I mean, it was partially because I was in China, but like I basically had a burner phone, like the kind of thing you see tossed on the side of the road in Baltimore, like a Nokia indestructible thing,
Why
and I was.
Baltimore? No, I'm kidding.
I don't know. I was thinking of the wire when I thought about
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
That's when I first learned about burners. Um, but anyways, and over the course of our relationship, she was the one that brought me into using iPhones and all that stuff. And I moved from a person who was more comfortable on conversations on the phone
Mhm,
to a person who was basically primarily texting. Um, and that's just from exposure and like the way we communicated. In my
mhm,
previous relationships, it wasn't the case. Um, so kind of going back to what I hit on before is that
mhm,
like certain behavior can change. Uh, it's not guaranteed, but it can change if you have like a stake in the relationship
mhm,
or after it becomes clear that it's important to the other person. If they are the kind of person that says, uh, it, "I really need you to be available to me. Like I need to be able to talk to you when I want to, and it would really mean a lot to me that you answer my texts." We don't have to get on the phone and talk for half an hour, but just like send me something quickly back, and I'm good. And if that person's important to you, then you might, even if you hate text, you might still do it.
But
In the
in,
other way, they might go ahead.
no, in that particular case, I can understand that in a long distance, excuse me, not a long distance, in a relationship, already an established relationship. But when a lady is 24 and she's using dating apps to reach out to men, uh, to see whether or not they actually will want to go out with her and stuff. Do you think maybe that situation is a little different than maybe in a already solidified relationship?
100%. Yeah, you without stake, what does it matter to you? This person's trying to contact you. Hi, my name is, and here's how you should change how you live. Like, that's not going to go over very well.
Yeah.
That's pretty much a red flag. So you can't expect someone to adjust their behavior at the get go, especially of a dating app you haven't even met yet. You could just forget about that.
Mm,
But on the other side of that, you can get trained. And I'm going to put it out there. I'll probably get kicked for this, but more often it's women training men to behave in a certain way that to maintain the happiness of the relationship. Um, and the other reason that might motivate a kind of change is when we've experienced failure because of our way of doing it, right? If you want to date younger men or younger women and you don't text, chances are you're going to have a harder time doing it, harder time making that connection and maintaining that connection because you don't play by their rules. So if you want to date outside of a normal age range, you have to consider where they came from and perhaps adjust your style to theirs, which means if you're the younger person, perhaps you get on the phone and talk to them, even though you don't really want to, because they don't necessarily want to text, you know?
correct.
So there has to be some movement one way or the other, and hopefully a compromise, but, just depends. Um, but, people should recognize that your way is not the only way
Hmm.
and that these little things can eventually add up to big conflicts. So, getting this sort of sorted out early on is pretty important. Um, so, I don't know. I gotta say, this is good for her, considering that um, it it might have something to do with the other people having responsibilities. Like she recognizes that, and that it might mean that they don't answer back as fast. I, when you're in college, you got so much free time. I mean, depending on your major, but generally you've got a lot of free time, and you can spend a lot of it sort of messing around on your phone and texting all day long. Uh, at the point that you're really into your career and you may have a really kind of established lifestyle in the work and work before work, after work kind of thing, you might not find that you're going to spend as much time texting and with your phone in your hands all the time. More and more you see it. Basically, just get on any subway, get on a bus, or go to a place where people are walking and they will be, head down in their phones. So this issue probably will disappear, in the next few 10 years maybe or something.
Probably, yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I mean,
but
like as people get used to it, you got to believe that. But
right.
there are people who don't consider that little ding that you hear from text almost as like a Pavlovian response. There are people who feel the buzz in their pocket, immediately go for it and answer, and then there are other people who'll take a look at it, put it back in their pocket, and then find a better time to answer. Especially with dating apps. I mean, like with things like Tinder, and all the other ones that require you to respond to a particular person or somebody that messages you. Sometimes when you're in the middle of something in the middle of the day, it's just not the right time to answer or respond or even come up with a proper response to a DM that you might receive. And I think that's all people, though. So therefore, you're right about the generalization earlier on when you were talking about it's not all people who do it, but it could be up to situations where people don't want to respond right away because they want to come back with something witty or something smart, and they just don't want to come back with a hey, how you doing, something more than that. So I don't know. Responding on
No,
dating apps has always been really weird. Like, you see those things on Reddit all the time where conversation gets started because the person will ask them like a weird question and then it leads down the line into something really funny or it like fails dramatically depending on what it is. So, but, it's hit or miss, I think. I can understand the frustration, but I can also understand and completely get people just not responding right away to just text in general.
Yeah, I think that the expectation that someone's always going to be right there, as though you were speaking to them directly,
Hmm.
that's going to cause problems because that is not that's just not how it works right now in technology. You don't get, I mean, you get a ding on your phone or a vibration, but that doesn't necessarily mean you need to go right to it because how many of those times is it a call from a telemarketer or a message that doesn't really matter, an email that's spam, or like we've been sort of trained away from
Hmm.
responding to those sounds and those impulses. So, and some people just aren't concerned with it. If you didn't need me immediately enough to call me, a text means it's not that important, and get to it when I get to it.
Yep.
There's a whole other conversation to be had there about whether you leave someone on red or not, and what that means. But I don't think we need to go down that path tonight. Though I will ask you, it was interesting to me that she brought up the whole thing, and she doesn't want to be seen as needy. Why do you think bringing up uh, the person's response to text would come across as needy?
I think what it is it's the general fallback point for a lot of people who expect to be sort of answered right away. Like she must have had this conversation with somebody else, and somebody else must have basically responded the wrong way by saying it's like that's not how you're supposed to do things. That makes you look really, really needy, and it's a little bit of self-reflection. I don't think it's one of those things that she considers herself needy, but I think it's one of those things that she definitely has been called that because of her expectations.
So
And
you think this is a response to like being given like a complex by someone who was like, "Why are you texting all the time? Why are you so needy?"
that's
You think it's
exactly
that?
I think it is that. I think it might be one of those things. It could have been an offhand comment that a friend had when she was just texting and made her sort of think, am I needy? I don't want to be seen as needy, but I have personal expectations that if I'm texting somebody, that they expect me to respond right back, which, you know, be it normal or not normal, whatever it is. Uh, but there is that assumption that people who need immediate gratification are needy. And in this particular case, she doesn't understand why her messages are going out to people and they're not immediately responded back to. Is she actually a needy person? Probably not. But is it a characteristic of someone who could be needy? Possibly. That,
Yeah,
but she
it
doesn't want
really
to be seen
depends
that
on
way. Yeah.
right. It totally depends on your behavior and how you react
Hmm.
to, you know, if she says, "Hey, what's up with this whole texting thing?" and like keeps it cool, probably get a cool response. But if she comes across as, I can only do this if this is one way. What are you thinking about me? Super insecure. Then it's going to go down that needy path pretty quickly. So
Exactly.
yeah,
But there's a weird part about this. Like, there she doesn't understand why people of the older age don't text as fast back. But I'm also wondering whether or not she would even consider dating anybody that doesn't. She never really responded to that part, but would she actually date somebody who doesn't respond to her even, 6 hours, 7 hours later? Would she consider that a slight in this particular way that she sort of understands that it's not necessarily a slight, but it definitely seems like that a person that would do it would fall lower on the list of somebody maybe that she would date, which is very interesting to me. So because she comes
yeah,
up with
very,
reasons to justify why they would do it, but she still is very not understanding of the situation. So, you know, you miss out. You possibly could miss out on somebody that could be a good person, but you because they don't respond right away and their texting habits are completely different as yours. Then, sorry.
yeah. You know what? She's 24. She can figure some stuff out through trial and error, like everybody else. So
Oh,
I
absolutely.
think there's no loss here. This is not like a major issue. She's not going to burn any bridges that were, substantial through something like this. Like if someone's really interested, they will make the connection. And if not getting the attention back fast enough, is a reason for her to move on, then great, go do your thing.
Hmm.
I think she's cool. Do you want to move on over to topic number 2 now?
Sure thing. So, topic number 2 is a very interesting one, and we mentioned if you read the topic today here on Twitch, you'll notice we posted something about a dating app. So this actually next topic actually does come from Reddit, uh, and it's entitled "Somebody Make This Dating App." So let me post it here on the screen, so that way everybody here can see. So it is from Tricky Widget, and he entitles his post, "Somebody please make this dating app." App working title, read my effing profile. Profiles do not show pictures by default. They only show, gasp, text. People would actually have to take a minute to read more than a dozen words of writing, maybe even a whole lot of words. Pictures are only revealed when a message is sent and replied to. The problems of monetization and frivolous abusive messages solve one another by one simple mechanic. It costs money to send the first message. Even charging $1 would change everything. No swiping or passive delivery of profiles of any sort. You're only ever shown profiles that match the criteria you specifically search for. A robust set of base characteristics far beyond the usual: age, kids, religion, etc. Characteristics that do their best to not assume the homogenized mainstream worldview of the masses. And an equally robust set of search filters to include and exclude exactly who you do and don't want to see. Alternate title: if you say you like dogs and travel, we'll punch you in the face. I have a real problem with this post because it just oozes jadedness. And for those who are subscribers to our YouTube channel, you can check out our video on that, because there is a lot of, I don't like to say it this way, but it's just one of those things in which this person is not very happy by the way that they're expressing uh, their feelings about current dating apps. And to me, it's just one of those things in which there are certain expectations even now in dating apps and online dating that are completely understandable. One, you want to know how the person looks. Two, pretty much dating apps are a meat market for both men and women. Uh, Tinder pretty much has made it so that paying for dating or even hookups or something like that is, you know, a next step for people. You can actually sign up for very many dating apps right now that require no money, and people still use them and can find people who they want. Now, in this particular case, Tricky Widget wants to only set a profile, so you have to read. No, guess what? This is America. People don't like to read. You post something out there, and people will be like, "Next." Uh, People are attracted to images and colorful things, and even though people say they want to understand and be with somebody who understands who they are, and you are in it for the emotions and the feelings of that particular person, there's a level of selfishness, and I don't think the word is selfishness. I think the word is more attractiveness. People want to be with people that they find attractive, and a lot of the times that entails uh, the selfishness of looking at an image of a person and understanding what they look like to even get somewhere. And then they might turn you off with their personality. But, you know, a person's looks is very important, especially in this day and age of online dating. I mean, I'm going to throw it to you because reading this, it's just one of the things to me that this feels like that this person has had lots and lots of issues with online dating apps, with people either being too superficial or possibly one of those things in which they meet in person and it just didn't go well, and therefore it just ended up in a bad date. What's your take on the whole thing?
Oh, it's a wee bit cringy. It's it's kind of
Right? I mean, like this.
it's yeah. This
Yeah.
guy
Oops.
probably would benefit from going over and listening to our How Not to Be Jaded Sunday Focus. I
Hmm.
linked it in the chat room, so
Oh, there you
there you
go.
go, bud.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, my first thought about that photos things is like, if you don't have photos, you just lost people.
Hmm.
If this app, no one's going to make an app because it's great for 11 people. They're making apps for the masses.
Correct.
They're
Hmm.
after money. So, and while they are very happy that the side result is that you find love or hook up or whatever, they want their money. So the photos are like a huge part of that. And it's because we're superficial window shoppers. We we all want to have a little sneak preview of what's coming. Uh, Now, that's not to say that there aren't people that don't put up photos and they are interested in the profile first and that they make connections that way, but they are a minority and a very small minority.
Hmm.
So the idea that you would not even be able to see a photo until after messages are sent, it's interesting, but uh, maybe they could gate like more photos after you've sent messages and been replied to. Then you can get to see a little more about them. But those initial photos, I think, are going to be pretty important. The second thing he said about it costing money to send a message, there are sites out there that do that, and generally they prey on uh, older people who are looking to order a mail or a bride from another country and have to pay to contact and communicate with them and have their messages translated, things like that. There's some pretty awesome documentaries on YouTube you can watch about that,
Hmm.
or like the tourism for brides or whatever. Anyways, we're not going down that road. But the idea that you are going to charge $1 a message, you just lost the rest of the people that were still around after the no photos thing. If you spent 5 minutes on any dating relationship Reddit, you know that guys are already butthurt about sending a million messages and getting four back. Like, just imagine if you had to pay for those messages. Like, it'd be a total freak out.
Yeah.
And so, you know, no, no one's going to pay for that. And then the next part that I think is actually probably the most problematic. These first two are hugely problematic, but this one, for me, for people who are searching for a real connection, this is the most problematic. And that is that our Redditor here wants to only get shown profiles that relate to criteria that he's specifically searched for. So, congratulations, you found a match, about 2,000 miles away, and he or she comes with a bunch of stuff you hadn't considered to include in your search, right? Because you've got a filter system up, and maybe you remember to put this or not or that. Maybe you have fine tuned it so much that no one is going to fit that, and so that the only person that really fits it won't be anywhere close to you.
Hmm.
So, uh, and then you have to think about, do people really know what's good for them? Do they have complete knowledge of what they want and what they need, what they're going to be attracted to, what will make them happy in a relationship? I think the answer is no. I think it's a learning process and it changes over time, comes with experience, and that sometimes what we're attracted to changes as we age or as we have different experiences. And with these changes, I guess you could adjust your filters or whatever, but there's just this sort of like, and actually I think there's a slide for this.
Hmm.
Uh, there is a part of our understanding about ourselves and what we want from the world
Yeah.
that is accessible to us.
Here you
Yeah,
go.
you can pop it up anytime you want.
There it
So,
is.
what I know that I want in a relationship, that's okay. That's active in my mind. I know what I know. And then, what you don't know about, maybe you haven't had an experience with that. I don't know if I'd like that in a relationship. That's in another section. But there's a huge portion of stuff out there that is you don't even know that you don't know about it. Like, you have not experienced a person to introduce you to something that says, holy, whoa, this is amazing, this is what I want going forward. Or the opposite, maybe they introduce something like, I never knew that that would make me so ill. I never want to be with a person like that again. So all of these things together would really mess up that filter system that would supposedly work on this imaginary app. And I think, and this applies to most knowledge in the world, but
Mhm.
for dating, I think it applies to this filter system. So I'm gonna ask you, Z, why do people think that they can order their partner like it's off a menu?
Because technology has made it seem like you can actually do it for anything. Um, People associate things you can do in the real world now and think they can apply it to everything in their life. So, for example, I'm going to give you Amazon. Amazon.com, the most uh, gross revenue retailer in the world, can get you everything that you need uh, to live in America. You can get groceries, hardware, uh, bathroom soaps and lotions, basically an entire grocery store, basically anything that will go in your shed. You can get even, mechanical items such as lawnmowers and stuff like that. Literally everything can be delivered to your home in a span of 2 days. When you live in a society that basically doesn't that makes it seem like that there is very little effort to go out there to find things, and all you have to do is type it in and see if you can get it. People then have a tendency to correlate that with other aspects of their life, and think, oh, it should be as easy as me getting a garden hoe from Amazon. No, absolutely not. Then people start to complain. It was like, well, I can get it. All of these other things like really, 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 really easy. All I have to do is type it in, and here I get it. It doesn't work that way. I think what happens is people just have this misconception that because you can do this and do this for other things, you can apply it to anything in your life. And it's so not true. And people then get confused as to how and why this doesn't work. And they can't come up with a reason and understanding to get why it's not this easy. I mean, human interaction is not a pizza. It is not as simple as somebody delivering it to your door, giving it $20, and being done with it. You can't order a girlfriend that way or a boyfriend that way. It's just not going to work. So I just don't know. I see it more and more now as society makes things easier. Eventually, Elon Musk will provide the self-driving car to everyone. So it's even less effort. Driving somewhere to see somebody will be effortless. Effortless. All it is typing the address, and the car will go for you. I mean, all aspects of society are becoming easier and easier for humanity. Uh, so therefore, dating apps like this should be easy for humanity. It's not, and people will get. I think people will actually get more frustrated because of it, and I predict that going forward, um, people will actually experience more frustration in their life because uh, it is not as cookie cutter as other aspects of how they live. That's
Yeah,
just how me. Yeah.
I mean they're developing algorithms that are supposedly smarter and smarter for these apps, um, and while I think they have made gains for sure.
Hmm.
Uh, there are elements that they cannot capture because we don't understand all of it. Certain kinds of chemistry have never been quantified or measured, or they just are in that realm of we don't know it. And so if we are trying to put together this menu and create an algorithm that connects people based on these features, it it doesn't match up with anything in history, how people have connected together and the way that they've connected. It doesn't indicate that they're making better connections necessarily. And the fact that it's so easy might actually in some way be working against it.
Hmm.
So I thought also this would be worth mentioning, just that the more filters you put up, the more I need this and I definitely don't want that, the more that you do, the more likely you're going to get it such a small window and increase the chances that the person will not want you back, right? If you pick 100 people, how many of those people want you, right? But now you've cut out 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, like you're down to like a handful of people now. What are the chances that those people are also going to like you
Yeah,
based on filtration system?
that's absolutely right. I mean, like you, I think what it is the unrealistic expectation that if you pigeonhole a group of people into a particular group, that automatically somebody in that group is going to like you back. It's not true. It's not true at all. What you're basically doing is what you said is basically lowering the pool to the point where you're basically it's a formula for failure because you have to get extremely lucky because at that point you've already added so many things that you've cut yourself down from 100 to maybe 6, 7. That might be stretching it if you're really
Who
really
knows?
particular.
Depends
Yeah.
on you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're really really particular, and what are the odds of them liking everything about you? I mean, you got to remember that. I think people don't like chance. And this is just something because I gamble. So people are risk averse a lot of the times. When you look at it, when you go into a casino and people are gambling their money, they would rather play a game. If they're there to have fun, they're there to have fun. They'll spend their money no matter what. But people who are there to play will play things that they feel like they can win at. Most example is blackjack, where you can turn the odds of the house into your favor if you know how to count cards. In a way, people are like that when they date. They are risk averse and feel like that if they put in all of these likes and dislikes, that they will like the person that ends up coming out of it. The problem with that is that there's a second factor to it in gambling. If you play something in your favor and you win, that's it. That's all that matters. They forget that they're dealing with another human being when it comes to dating. So when you do that, you're not factoring in whether or not your personality is shit. So it is like if you are a terrible person, you'll meet the match that you've always wanted, but that person in no way will like you. So what are you doing? I to me it's very very funny because I think it's almost antithetical to what they should actually be doing, which is casting a wider net, being open to more things, and possibly uh, allowing themselves to experiment with things that they think that they might like, but in fact could enjoy if with the right proper person.
Right.
So,
Experience will
yeah,
teach a lot to somebody.
correct.
That's
Hmm.
generally what happens through dating.
Hmm.
Uh, I think that, the, the the real best place to be is somewhere in the middle. The opposite side of what we've been talking about is blind dating, where you're just sort of put in front of a random, and you don't know how they look, what kind of personality they have, what their history is. You're just there.
Hmm.
So that has a high chance of failure only because you don't get to have any filtration.
Correct.
So if and like, unless maybe what you got it set up, it's a blind date, but you got set up by someone who knows you, and they can kind of guess, oh, well, this person likes this and this and this. But there's just something to experiencing people, learning a little more, and then also putting the filters on top of that.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably where we want to end up. Um, I have a question for you, though, Z.
Yeah. Hmm.
Um, and this is semi-related, but not necessarily. Uh, so some people uh, watch these dating shows on television, and they're kind of absurd, and they specifically try to remove the people's normal filters and put them in situations with other people where there's probably no chance it would ever happen in reality. And then just we all sit back, get our popcorn, and watch these things just happen to these people, and that's hilarious. Um, but I just wanted, like, what do you think about the whole these extreme experiential dating shows? And I'm just gonna throw a couple out there just to sort of get you thinking on it. Like, there's an all nude dating show where you have nothing to hide anymore because you're straight up naked when you're on your first date with this person. There's dating in the dark, which is the complete opposite, pitch black. You can't see anything. All you get is their voice. And over the course of the show, you might get to like touch their hands and whatever, slowly
Hmm.
interact with them. Then there's a dating show where you are literally chained to this person for 4 days. And you have to experience them in all of their glory in a short period of time. And then there are just these wild experiences like, hey, it's your first date. We're gonna shoot you out of a cannon and let that happen. See how you guys do. So like, what's coming to your head right now?
Those are not dates. That is entertainment. Now, to me, those shows are beyond ridiculous. I think the people that go on those shows completely understand what the hell they're doing. Now, they might get paired up with somebody attractive and they might really like the person, but it's all for show. I don't know, and never researched it, so what the hell would I know? Like, if anybody's ever come out of those shows and ended up being in either a serious relationship or married. So let's take the new dating show for beginning. They all have little quirks about them, right? Like the new dating show, you put both of the people in the nude, and then they have to basically, if I remember, this one weren't they like in the jungle or something, or on an island where they would have to survive for like a couple days, they have to make a date out of it. It's you take the
It's
nudity, something like that. You take the nudity factor out, but that's what it is. If you are two people who are not in any way ashamed of their bodies, be it if they were skinny or fat, then it's just sticking two people naked somewhere. There's nothing wearisome about it. Then it's all a matter about learning who the persons are. These all break down dating in the dark, chained together wild experiences, things like that. They're forcing people to communicate in extreme circumstances. But the problem is that with all of these shows is that if people don't have qualms about the things that they're doing, then it really just boils down to whether or not they get along with the other person. And that's basically it. Um, that I think I've told you multiple times where people have a tendency to feel intense emotion if in a situation where they are feeling at risk. So the first time I ever even heard the concept was in the movie Speed, but it's actually sort of true that people in disasters or something like that, men and women have a tendency to more bond in those extreme circumstances. It's almost like these dating shows are trying to emulate that, but to me they just come off as silly. So like relating back to the op who was talking about making a dating app that only showed what you write in your your profile. It's basically the same thing. It's you're taking out something in order for them to force you to sort of communicate with each other. Which in his particular cases, I understand what he or she is trying to do, but to me, it's just blah. It's the only way that I can sort of
Yep.
describe it.
Yep.
And that's what these dating apps and what he was trying to do, and that's what these shows are also trying to do.
Well, people are just trying to find a way to make dating easier for them, for themselves. And, this person is salty and they are unhappy with their dating life. So they are thinking, oh, well, if nobody saw me and judged me, then they might like me based on my personality. And if there was a financial obligation to communicate, they'd take it more seriously and I'd do better then. Like this person's just angry at being passed over.
Yeah,
And
but
I
the
get
thing,
that because
but
there's
the
a lot of that.
but the thing about it is like there are this applies to both men and women. I mean, like there are women to be who hate to be judged by their looks. Some people can be very, very attractive, but they get then pigeonholed into thinking that that they aren't intelligent, or they feel like that because they're good looking, they need to like certain things. That can also be very frustrating to people because they are, um, specifically said that because of this, you need to like this. And I can understand that point. But you know what? We live in a society that's somewhat superficial, and in a society like that, I think looks definitely come into play and need to be basically shown, just to basically as a start off point. So I think
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think we've talked around all of this, and it's just one of those things in which it's just another aspect of frustration when it comes to dating in general nowadays, and specifically online dating.
yep. That's 85% of the posts in the dating channels anyway. So
Correct. Hmm.
that's what we respond to because there's so much of it. Uh, and before we leave this one last comment: the dating app idea sucks, so don't do it. Don't waste your time or your money. So let's move on to the third topic here. It's actually just a simple two-part question, and there's a lot of response, and this is something we've drawn from our own personal experiences. So we're just going to put the question out there and start talking about it and see where it goes.
Yeah.
The format might be a little bit different, but this is an experiential time. We'll just let it be what it is. So the question is: people who have been in a long distance relationship, what were your experiences like, and was it worth the effort? So, to start off, I will say long distance relationships are very, very hard to maintain, and that they require both people to actively contribute throughout. There's no getting lazy in a long distance relationship because if you aren't fully invested, then it doesn't exist anymore. So I thought I'd start off with some of my experiences and then throw it over to Z after that,
Hmm.
and then we'll just kind of talk about it after that. So for the people who know me, I am a traveling man. I have, basically like
He was
within a year.
born a traveling man.
This is like if we're gonna do a karaoke night, that's probably gonna be on the weekend. And it
They do have
never
karaoke
exists.
here on Twitch, so we could sing if we really wanted to.
Oh yes, that'd be amazing for everyone, I'm sure. But so just to say that, in the last from college and on, I probably spent a total of uh, 10 to 11 years uh, overseas, and then another 5 in Hawaii, which is basically overseas. So I've been far and away for a long time. And before that, I took a job which had me living in different cities every 2 months. So just moving, moving, moving. And that, of course, lended to long distance relationships because it's hard to, feel connected to people when you're constantly moving. So uh, actually, I actually can say this. Almost all of my relationships have ended up as long distance at some point. So my high school girlfriend, it was, she was in the DC area. I was down in Blacksburg at Virginia Tech. Then uh, another girlfriend that was between DC and New York City. Another one between Hawaii. I was between Hawaii and China, and
Hmm.
she was in DC. Another one between China and Abu Dhabi, and I ended up marrying her. So
Oh, there was
you know,
also
th-
the one you're forgetting one,
uh,
the one between America and China, even though that one didn't last very
you're
long.
right. Oh yeah, that's right. Okay, well, my wife is not in the room, so I can talk about that too. Um, no. Uh, But basically, I would not have done any of those without a solid initial foundation. Like if I didn't have a face-to-face relationship with them first and establish it at the beginning, I probably would not have gotten to a long distance relationship with someone just from meeting them online. And you know, that's not to say that it couldn't have happened, but in my case, it generally started off as something, in person and then moved into long distance because I had to get up and go somewhere. There were times when I told myself that I would never do a long distance relationship again, and then I failed, and I got into again, and then maybe even one after that. So like, because it's hard, and I'll get into why. But the phone and the computer were my best friend and my worst enemy. I use them to communicate, chat, text, and all that, talk on the phone with my girlfriends sometimes 12 hours time zone difference, sometimes 16. And I call it my worst enemy as well because I can I can at any moment bring to mind the image and the feeling of having a sweaty, hot ear phone to my head for hours, or just unable to get up and do things because I was in the middle of a conversation, especially when you have like an argument and you can't get up from the computer until it's done. It's just rough. If you're in person, you could go walk out and go to your room, do whatever. But I guess you could sign off, but that doesn't really help anything.
Yeah.
Um, I'll just keep going, get through the rest of these before I turn it over. But another element of long distance is every time you get together, it's that honeymoon phase. So that's pretty cool, but it can sometimes cause you to overlook and suppress some things that are problems in the relationship. So you might be on a downward trend and then see them, and then that sort of revives things, and then you go long distance again, and then you start going back downwards again, and yeah, that could be a problem too. Intimacy is an issue. Obviously, you're forever away, so but then again, so is trust, right? These kind of things can breed insecurity. You don't know what that person is doing when they're not connected to you. So if you're a jealous type, long distance is not for you at all. Uh, Other people don't even respect long distance as much. Like guys and girls will try to creep on you or your significant other because, hey, where's your man? Where's your woman? Not here? Then I'll be here.
Yep. And
Uh,
that is the worst for those who understand having to deal with that stuff. Just
for
saying.
sure.
Hmm.
Yeah. It's also hard to invest in your real life. So you have such an important element, which is your significant other, that isn't part of your day to day in a physical way. So, like I said, you're on the computer and you're chatting there, or you're texting something like that, and then your real life friends there want to go out and do something. Well, you don't get to bring your significant other with you. You got to go out and do your thing, and so that can lead to resentment. It can cause issues. Why is that? Why are you going out when you could be talking to me? Which means sitting in your home. It's like, or on your phone when all your friends are out doing something. And it really helps to have goals and stick to them, like having those meetings. Uh, Meaning, like they fly to you, you fly to them, you drive over. Vacations, future plans, right? Something in the future. But also there has to be a time limit, because if you are in a long distance relationship and you don't have that next time that you'll be together planned, or some relief to the annoyance of long distance, it tears it apart and oftentimes leads to the end of the relationship. So it's mostly just about having a balance. Like you got to take turns to do the travel. You got to make sure that everyone's getting what they need, and that there's a plan to eventually end the long distance and get together, because otherwise most people don't want to stick with that, and they'll opt out.
Yep.
What about you, Z?
All right. This is my take on long distance relationships, and I've had a couple, but the first one is the most prominent one that I've ever had, and this happened in college. I was introduced to this girl via a friend also that I had met online. This, I want to emphasize that relationships make people do stupid things. And it is one of the inherent truths of being in a relationship is that you will do something stupid for your significant other, to be it something minor or something major, but you will end up doing something. So my stupidity led me to visit my girlfriend every 2 weeks from where I lived in Virginia, in Blacksburg, to Atlanta, Georgia. And for anybody who's ever driven that distance before, it's roughly about 6.5 hours if you want to do that. I did that for an entire year for every 2 weeks. You have to imagine what the toll on that was. I did it, and it was just one of those things. And this was at a time in which uh, this particular long distance relationship, there was a lot of communication. I've never been a telephone person. I don't like being on the phone. Unlike Acorn, there are many
I don't
instances.
like it anymore.
You don't like it anymore, but there have been tons of instances when we've been at parties, and Senor over here had been on the phone talking to his girlfriend who is not so it's like
Shame, shame.
so he's chained to his phone in his room. Everybody's having a good time outside. He'll go in there, talk for 2 hours. Don't know how he does it with like loud music and stuff going on. Then all of a sudden, he'll just reappear and he'll be in a good mood or a bad mood depending on how the conversation went. So that is a realistic version. But in my particular case, it was something called AOL Instant Messenger. For those who are too young to understand what that is, it is the original iteration of DMs, pretty much. Um, Hearing the little instant messenger bell was like crack to me because if I heard it in a certain time, it would be almost like that Pavlovian response. As soon as I heard it, I was committed to being on the computer for God knows how long, depending on how long each of us could talk. And it was like that for an entire year when I was not with my significant other at that time. Uh, and I completely agree with Tim with regards to there is an intenseness that happens when you actually get together because of long distance. It's euphoric almost to describe because in my particular case, I had to drive a certain long distance to actually even get there. But once you're actually there, you're just so excited. Everything's so happy. Everything is like very lovey lovey, and especially at the very beginning, it's just like, oh my god, you're here! Like, oh, that's great. You try to control yourself around each other's friends and stuff like that, but you're very happy to see each other. Um, it's also one of those things that if you get too used to a long distance relationship where you're seeing somebody in spurts, sometimes seeing somebody for an extended period of time where you don't actually have that long distance relationship, uh, things can happen. You get into arguments and things don't work out the way like they normally do after maybe a 3 day visit or a 2 day visit. You're there for a week, you're there for a couple weeks, possibly. You start to experience things that you don't necessarily experience with a short term long distance visit. Um, and it's very interesting. So people have a tendency to when they're not connected to each other to have routines. And when you interrupt those routines and don't know how to act upon that, things happen. So it's just one of those things. Like, there is a very negative connotation associated with a relationship that all it is short little bursts of intensity, and then you throw in a 2 week stint where you're constantly around each other all the time. You could get on each other's nerves, and it happened to me. So that is a very realistic problem. There are also side effects of long distance relationships. My side effect is that now I refuse to drive any distance over 6 hours. I refuse. I will not get in a car and drive long distances anymore. I will fly there. I have flown to my friend's beach house, uh, even though it is a relatively short distance away, but because I knew that the traffic was going to be awful, I sucked it up and paid probably more than I should have to go for a free weekend visit just because I refuse to get into a car and stay in a car for an extended period of time. There are other negative connotations to long distance relationships in that could happen to me or to you that could also be a side effect of I think long distance relationships. But the inherent question is was it worth it? Absolutely. I don't think I would ever trade this relationship for anything. Uh, Even though it ended pretty badly, the experience was something that I still sort of fondly look upon back now that I'm older. And I think to myself, holy crap, you were insane. I don't understand why you did something like that. But there were also a lot of good times, a lot of things that happened. It was my first real significant relationship with somebody, and it happened to be a long distance one. But it was fun. It was adventure. It was something going out there. Did I learn a whole lot? Hell yeah, I learned a lot. Um, but would it be something that I would ever do again? I would seriously have to think about it because of the commitments and the experiences that I had before. So, you know, I think long distance relationships are something that pretty much everybody has gone through once in a while, be it somebody has to move away for work, a college relationship, a high school relationship ending, and that person moving away, things like that. Those are your standard reasons for long distance relationships. And now with the internet, people meeting each other through Facebook, dating apps, things like that, that people aren't really close to and have to assume this really have to do. If that person on the other side is really that special to you, after all of these things that you sort of have to go through and have to ordeal, or pretty much, then you know what? Go for it, because there are so many obstacles in your way to finding that sort of happiness. And I think long distance relationships sort of exacerbate that struggle a little more. So, if they can make it work, that's absolutely fantastic. And
Yeah,
that's my
true
take
enough,
on it.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for me, I mean, obviously I did it again and again and again.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
At the time that I did it, it was a lot harder to do it. I mean, now with having your phone where the person's available at all times with FaceTime, I mean, you could be video face to face with them at literally any moment.
Yes.
And back in the day, it wasn't like that. So it's easier in that way to maintain something long distance.
Yeah.
But still, I mean, I don't know if someone asked me today if they should get into a long distance relationship, I'd likely tell them not to, just because I know all of the pain that comes along with it and all of the struggle and all of the kind of, I guess, the knock on effects
Yeah.
that can affect your social life and other
I,
things like that. And, it sucks too. It sucks when you care about someone so deeply and you cannot, you just can't, reach over and take their hand. You can't, you know, you don't have those simple moments.
you know what? I wouldn't necessarily say no, but I would really want to explain to them what is involved in it. And you brought up something earlier about like the locals hitting on your significant other. That shit's infuriating, especially if you're in a
Yep.
long distance relationship, because what you're actually fighting is your emotions and your ability to trust. So the things, two things that you should be in control about, but honestly, it's one of those things in which you live with the constant fear that your long distance communication goes wrong, and then all of a sudden, that person goes for solace to this person that has been, uh, you know, trying to get into his or her DMs, as you say. The lack
Hmm.
of respect is galling when it comes to stuff like that. And theoretically, and it's happened where it could be somebody that is a friend of your significant other that is very, very nice to you when you get down there and you see that person, but behind the scenes is a complete schmuck. And a lot of the
Yep.
times you just don't know whether or not it's true or not. But you if you start to hear things, then you're fighting your own personal emotions, your delusions of the whole thing, and whether or not you can trust this person to do the right thing. And it can be very mentally tough.
Especially if, I mean, if your fears are actualized. Like my first girlfriend, guess what? I went away to college. She was at home, and some sleazy army boy rolled up, and there that went.
Hmm.
And then
It happened
in my
again.
second relationship, yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was just, dudes waiting, laying in wait, hiding in the bushes.
Yeah.
And as soon as you just step away, they just start. filling in the blanks, so
A-
to speak.
and that's the thing, right? Like constantly, if you're in it, if you're in multiple long distance relationship and it constantly happens, you become paranoid about this shit. I mean, it's just one of those things in which all of a sudden now that's what you're thinking about, and it is not healthy in a way.
Right, but
Um,
it can teach you something. You
oh
can
yeah, it can
you
absolutely
you
teach you
leave that and
something.
you say, when I get these tingling, that my spidey sense is tingling, that something's freaky is going on, check out. You're done. It can be useful in a way.
Yeah, it can be useful, and it shows you things that red flags, as you say, that should not be happening. But at the same time, other side effects such as jadedness, inability to trust, have a tendency to then set in, even if you're not in a long distance relationship. So it is just something that can really, really affect you for an extended period of time, and can affect your dating life essentially, because just bad experiences piling on in each other can turn you into a person that not necessarily might be the easiest person to date, just because bad things kept happening to you. So got to be careful about all of that, but that can also happen in normal dating too. So
Right. Well, if
mm,
you want to know how not to become jaded, just check the link there.
yeah, right
it's
there in the
it's one
chat.
of our previous shows. But so before we move on to our last little fun time thing here,
Hmm.
uh, I think that I just want to send a little shout out to people. If you are the guy in the bushes or the girl in the bushes, just I'd say just be genuine and honest and straight up, and don't try to cause a relationship to fail on long distance. People are already struggling. So, if you're an opportunist and you want to wait till it's gone and then make your move, that's fine. But don't be a douchebag.
The thing about it is like, um, the issue with all of that is people have a tendency to not be able to control themselves, and the argument against that is, oh, I really love this person. I really think that we and her should be together as opposed to that other guy. Respect a person's relationship with another person. It's just saying. It's like no matter what your emotions are, which can be possibly hard to control, if you are invading in another person's relationship, there is no way you are not the douchebag in that particular situation. I'm sorry,
Yep, you're a jackal.
you're a
You're straight
jackal.
up looking for the sick, weak antelope.
Yeah, exactly. No, granted, there are possibly reasons why you would want to intrude if you see something like that, is something terrible happening. But in 90% of all cases, anybody jumping into another person's relationship and trying to take him or her away is an invader and should be treated as such. So,
Oh dear.
yeah, oh dear.
Okay, let's move on. um, so this last bit, this is going to be kind of a new thing for us. We're trying it out. See what you like. And give us feedback if you don't. This new segment, I think it's basically on Reddit. When I'm going through and picking out these topics for our shows, I sometimes come across a question or a rant, comment that is so abhorrent and cringeworthy, or just plain disappointing in the scope of humanity. But then I see that there's some sort of takeaway that we can use to make it worth exploring. So we're going to call this segment "Don't Be This Person." Okay, and we are going to. I think you can bring it up here. This
Yeah.
is a Reddit post by Taken 250, um, and this gentleman has some feelings that he wants to share. And so I'm going to share those with you, and then we're going to go through and talk about why you should not be this person Taken 250 is being right now. So, question: how is dating hard for women? It seems way harder for men, like 1,000 times. I just don't see how hard it is for women in dating. They can just get hit on at any bar or club that they go to, and they can either say yes or no. Same thing with the dating apps. It's just totally skewed towards women, where they can have 9,999 or more likes just waiting for them. Meanwhile, for guys, you either go out in real life and most likely will get rejected, either because she's not interested or she has a boyfriend or some other excuse. Guys can talk to like 10 or more women at a bar and still walk away empty. It's pretty mentally and emotionally draining to continue like that. It's almost like mental abuse being asked to go out there, put yourself out there, and get rejected over and over. Or with dating apps, they're just useless because women either don't match with you or don't even respond, even if you have the wittiest line and the most personalized message ever. You can literally send 100 customized messages on whatever dating app you prefer and hear nothing back. Meanwhile, women can just sit back and wait for the messages and matches to roll in like a cakewalk. Okay, kid.
Well, let's bring up the point that how this didn't go negative is crazy because there's a, it still has positive 18 upvotes. Credit to Reddit in that particular case. It's just like Jesus.
Yeah, I mean, okay, where to begin with this one? I The original poster is completely incapable of empathizing and considering the female perspective in any way. And what I will give him credit for is I think it's rare, but it is rare that I can find a problem with literally every line of a Reddit post. So I kind of tip my hat to him. Like
Yeah.
that's something. That's an accomplishment.
Yeah.
um, so just the very first line that like women can just go get hit on at any bar or club. Like this is a good thing or something. Like okay, so a horrible analogy time. Imagine you're going shopping for a shirt, but instead of being able to browse and possibly select the shirt that you want, you have salespeople coming at you from all directions, trying to sell you whatever items in their hands. On top of that, some of them are trying to con you into buying it. On top of that, some of them are just putting the item on you before you've shown any interest or given them permission to try. They don't care if you want to buy; they just want to make the sale. That's pretty awesome, right? So now you come back to reality where instead of clothes, it's men hounding you and creeping up on you and touching you. Just sounds like a nightmare. So like this dude, he's just missed the bus on this one. He has no concept of what women have to go through and thinks somehow that it's just amazing to have, hordes of slathering dudes rolling up on you. And that is, that's just not it. Uh, so then he goes on to say, women can just say yes or no. That because men always accept no? Because what? What?
Yeah.
Sometimes for women, no actually has consequences, regardless of how polite you are about it. You can say no to a guy, and he can freak out because his little man ego got hurt, or get physically violent. So no is sometimes dangerous. And how about this? What if you don't want to have to say yes or no? What if you like to be in control of seeking out the person you want to connect with and communicate with? Right? You come to the bar because you're interested in meeting people, but like it doesn't mean you're just a training dummy people just come up and start hitting on. Like that's ridiculous. And this guy has a concept of women in a bar. It's kind of like a finely dressed server offering a tasty hors d'oeuvre
Yeah.
where you could just like slightly tilt your head and they'll just disappear. And like, no, you say no to a guy and you have a problem. If you say anything besides that direct no, dude's gonna be all up on you. Oh, come on, let me get you a drink, and like trying to find ways to touch on you, dance with you when you don't dance. Like it's just dirty and nasty and disappointing. I think so. Then he goes on to say like, "Oh, it's the same thing with the dating apps. You can get those 9,999 likes. Like, what does 9,999 likes get you? It's utterly meaningless.
Yeah.
Who cares if a million people like your profile? Are you in love? Are you happily connected to someone? No, but I got the likes. I don't care.
Well, Reddit people measure themselves with karma, so understandable.
Well, you can okay. Well, you can stare at your 9,900 likes while you eat dinner alone, looking at the screen. Then, because that's what you got. You didn't get a person out of it. This
Mhm.
this guy, it's like as or as though like 10,000 messages in your inbox would be a good thing. Are you serious, kid? You you have to imagine how many people do you like out of 10,000 people? How many people would you want to date? And out of those people, after getting to know them, how many of those would you actually want? Like it gets smaller and smaller and smaller. But what if it wasn't your choice and all those people were just coming after you? It would be overwhelming and you would be tired and you'd probably get jaded and you'd probably start treating them all the same, which is a lot of what you see with the no responses on the dating apps and stuff. It's just too much, right? And we're not even talking about the unwanted dick pics and stuff like that because that's a whole other thing.
Yep.
So then, so then, homeboy here, he shifts the focus to men's experiences, right? Oh, men will go out in real life and get rejected because she's not interested or she has a boyfriend or some other excuse. Dude, yes. Yes, these are
Mhm.
completely legitimate reasons to reject you, you idiot. Like, she's not interested in me. Yeah, that's game over. She has a boyfriend. Also, game over. Like, these are not excuses. You're just not going to be it. And what in what world do you accept someone's advances when you aren't interested or are already taken? I don't know what this guy's expectations are, but they're off. He talks about, oh, 10 or more women at the bar. He'll go talk to them and like get nothing back. And so what? These women are not at the bar to be picked up by you. Maybe they're there because they want to hook up, but if you don't know how to approach them, chat with them, flirt with them, if you don't have game or if you don't occur to them as someone they'd like to connect with, then you're going to fail 100 times, not just 10. This dude just needs to look in the mirror. I think uh, he's like, oh, it's like mental abuse going out there and getting rejected over and over. It's more like self abuse because they're not doing it to you. You're doing it to yourself. You're going out there with the wrong stuff in your head, and no wonder you're failing. So if you're just taking the same bad plan and running it over and over again, that's on you. But back to the apps. He's stuck on this idea that like more means better results. He's got this mentality, right? Or that I played the game, where's my trophy? Or I tried hard, where's my results? Or it's easy for some other imaginary person or group, so it should be easy for me. All of these are flawed, and
Mhm.
and these are all in his head. So, I mean, this is it. I broke it down all the way down, and this guy is he's hitting every single wrong turn you can make. Uh, Z, do you have anything? Is there anything standing out here for you that makes you say, "Don't be like this guy"?
Well, the entitlement that just oozes out of this post is ridiculous. I don't understand people who believe that they deserve things without in any way putting in any effort with regards to it. I mean, this guy believes that because he goes out there and he does his thing that he should automatically deserve to get a girl. It's a joke. Uh, you know, sometimes it just doesn't happen for people. You go out there, you don't know how to talk to women. Women aren't interested. You could be going out to the wrong places, whatever the hell it is. But to just overgeneralize the way he's doing is really just crazy. I mean, I almost have to point out, like in the post itself, he equates going out to getting laid. He actually mentions in a response to somebody in this thread that he approached 200 plus women and got laid once, and he quote, "I'm thinking of giving up on dating." Really? Is
Yeah,
that is
dude.
that what dating actually is? It's not.
Hey,
It's
girl,
yeah.
I approached you. Where's my sex?
Yeah. It's crazy. It's crazy, and this person has it hard going forward because this mentality really is just self-destructive to the point where um he's never going to get anyone to like him if he keeps up this sort of jaded attitude. I don't know. I don't know if that's even the proper word. It's it's almost like this entitled attitude would be closer to it, because he feels like that he should be getting these things and he's not, and now he's blaming somebody else for his issues. And to me, the whole thing is just a garbage post. The thing about it that just irks me out the most is that there are people who comment about how they sort of understand his frustration and at how difficult it is to be in to from a guy's perspective. No one's saying that it's not hard being a guy or a woman in the dating scene. I just think that that extra part of, oh, it's because them, and they have it so much easier than us, and believing that he is deserving of some sort of special treatment, the way that he just sort of describes himself, is like, get over yourself, please. And this is a perfect example of, yeah, don't be this guy, because this is something that, if a woman if you're a woman and you see something like this, I know I would be skeezed out, and to the point where it's like, what the hell does he want? Why would he expect that if he talks to uh, any woman, that immediately they would reciprocate with whatever the hell he wants to have? It's a joke. It's ridiculous. So I don't see any success coming in the future for this man going forward, unless he better check himself, because he is about to wreck himself in his dating opportunities going forward for sure.
Yep.
So
Yeah, you nailed it with the entitlement thing.
yeah,
Um, and and like he kind of needs just like a wake up call. Someone needs to grab him and shake him. And I mean, where else does this sort of mentality work in life? Like, if you're not having success in this kind of dating, in these attempts, it's on you to make changes, because there are plenty of happily connected people out there that are doing these things and making a connection. So it has to be what's going on in your head that's creating these problems. And nobody is attracted to someone who feels entitled and is basically objectifying you, because that's what he's doing here. He's
yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah. Well, he this is again like what I said earlier. Um, he can't see the difference between buying a commodity and trying to be in a relationship. Like, he is equating that if he just goes out there and puts like money, and he can get goods and services automatically, just because he's going out there and making a little bit of an effort. He doesn't understand that there is another human being involved uh, in trying to acquire a relationship. He has no idea. He feels like that as long as he's able to go out there, he should be getting something in return. That's just not how it works. Uh, Dating is not a immediate gratification. You do not succeed in a lot of instances, but when you do succeed, it's a great feeling. But you are not in any way assured of success, and you are definitely not entitled to success. Um, so I think he needs to understand that initially first, before he should be dating anyone. Because honestly, like, um, there are a whole lot of issues that I would see, that even if he did get into a relationship, that um, he would not stay in that relationship for very long. So that is my personal opinion on this whole thing. It's really frustrating though to read something like that, because it's just like, where he's going with it, and it's like, dude, no, this is self defeating. There's just no way that this is in any way good for you or for anybody else, and for you to just bitch and complain about it is not actually doing or fixing whatever the hell is wrong with your approach or yourself. So, you know, You're
Yeah.
basically ranting at the wind and hoping that the wind rants back at you and gives you a little bit of help. And it's just like, no, 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 no.
Maybe he's looking for commiseration from other Redditors. It's a
Maybe.
common thing. Like I've seen
Yeah.
this post 50 times already, and different people. So this is a common experience of people who are unable to parse reality from perceived reality.
Yeah.
And
Well, if you.
by that I mean
Yeah.
it's really what's going on in the dating world, and this idea that you have that, oh, it's so easy for women, it's so hard for men. These are all the dynamics that are at play when you go into a bar. These are all like he knows everything,
Yeah.
when in
Yeah.
fact it's quite obvious he knows very little about what's going on.
Yeah. And that's the dangerous part. Like, having a personality where you think you know everything is very, very problematic, especially when what you think is real doesn't turn out to be real. Uh, Side point: he would have gotten 1,000 outvotes in it r is / incels with this post because it definitely would fit into that category of jaded men who believe things that aren't necessarily true. But yeah,
Yeah, there's a bit of that.
yeah,
Well, this is it's an adventure here. I think that uh, we will come across a lot of people with the same mentality, but when we come back to this type of conversation where we're pointing out, don't be like this guy, we'll try to vary it, and maybe we can point out a few other people that you should steer clear of
yeah.
when
And
you're
you know what?
navigating the world dating. Go ahead.
Yeah, this doesn't apply to just one gender either. There are
Nope.
yeah, there are terrible people on both sides of the aisle when it comes to this, and hopefully we'll be able to point out those equally. In this particular case, um, you've seen this particular perspective of what Taken 250 believes uh, what dating to him is. But we'll see other bad behavior featured here on the show going forward.
All right. Well, I think we've done our work here.
I think our work here is indeed done. So, Tim, thank you very much for joining as always and being the co-caster here for the vodcast. But yeah, that's going to do it here for Twitchline. As always, just to let you guys know, we do a regular show here on Wednesday nights, usually around between 10 and 10:30. We ran a little long here today, so you got a little bit of bonus content. As always, if you have a question for us, comments, concerns, whatever, throw us a line here at twitchlinelove@gmail.com. Also, you can post anything you want to our Twitter. You can maybe send us articles, do whatever. We'll try to credit you as best you can at Twitchline on Twitter. If you're interested in maybe seeing old recordings of the shows where we talk about all sorts of other topics, come visit us on Twitchline Relationship Help and Advice, our YouTube channel. Just click on the below, it'll take you directly to the YouTube channel. And we are indeed available on SoundCloud if you want to listen to us on the go. But that's gonna that's gonna do it for us tonight. As always, if you liked what you heard, hit the follow button up at the top to know when we go live. Plan is that we might have a special show tomorrow, depending on whether or not we can get a topic. We were not on the air on Sunday, so we'll try to see if maybe we can squeeze in a next Twitch line here for you tomorrow. But if not, our normal casting days are on Sundays and Wednesdays, so please join us here on Twitch and on YouTube. We stream directly to YouTube also, where you can see what we talk about here on Twitchline. But for Acorn, I'm Hodo. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we will see you next time.
Take her easy.